Japan is home to a vast array of fascinating yokai legends, making it one of the countries with the richest mythology and urban legends in the world. From the modern tale of Hasaku-sama to the ancient legend of the YUKI-ONNA, these stories are widely known and deeply captivating. Today's video is a special retrospective, revisiting the 25 Japanese yokai stories I created in 2024. A warm welcome to both new and returning friends. Let's dive in and enjoy the stories together. I'm Mr. Yao, and welcome to the Legend Yokai channel. Here, I explore famous yokai and urban legends. If you're into these topics, be sure to subscribe so you won't miss out on future videos. In the story of Haki Yagyo, there is a yokai named AME-ONNA, or known as the Rain Woman. Whenever rain falls, she appears in the form of a beautiful woman in desolate places. When a man, carrying an umbrella, sees her and invites her to share the umbrella, the Rain Woman kindly agrees and follows the man back home. If a man desires the beauty of the Rain Woman, he will regret it for a lifetime after engaging with her. This is because the Rain Woman will forever cling to that man. However, the man will discover that he cannot endure the heavy dampness emanating from the Rain Woman. No matter how hard he tries to escape, it seems that the Rain Woman closely follows, and the dampness envelopes his body. As time passes, the man gradually feels that living in such a damp environment becomes difficult. Ordinary people find it challenging to resist such intense humidity. The man eventually perished, his demise akin to drowning. The Rain Woman silently watches over the man's life coming to an end. However, if at that time the man had no improper thoughts towards the Rain Woman and simply invited her to share the umbrella out of sympathy for her being caught in the rain, the Rain Woman would not only refrain from harming him but might even fulfill one of his wishes. Whichever ending it may be, please refrain from attempting to find a beautiful woman without an umbrella on a rainy day. Do you know that most of the yokai appearing in the form of beautiful women harbor intense resentment towards men? Among them, JOROGUMO, also known as the lady spider, is a yokai that originates from a spider transforming into a human-like figure, seducing men with its beautiful female appearance. In the end, the seduced men fall victim to her, as she consumes them, making her an extremely dangerous yokai. In feudal Japan during the Kamakura period, there was a lord's wife renowned for her beauty. However, her cunning nature and promiscuous behavior were equally well known. Unwilling to be confined to just one man, she frequently engaged in extramarital affairs behind her husband's back. One day, the lord personally caught his wife in the act of infidelity. Fueled by anger, he threw her into a box filled with poisonous spiders. The lord coldly witnessed his wife being bitten to death by the venomous spiders. The vengeful spirit of the lord's wife merged with the venom of the spiders, transforming into a fearsome lady spider filled with hatred towards men. The lady spider often roams the forest, luring lost men with her captivating beauty. Fearful of flames, she avoids getting close when a man wields a torch. The lady spider entwines herself with the man she seduces, enjoying moments of pleasure. However, this happiness only lasts until the third night. Driven by hunger, the lady spider transforms into a giant spider, wrapping the man in silk, ultimately claiming his head and consuming his brain. Much like a black widow devouring the male spider she mates with. Sometimes, love affair may not be a blessing. It might even cost you your life. Legend has it that deep within the snow-capped mountains of Japan resides a woman. Her skin is incredibly pale, and she possesses a beautiful exterior. However, her expression is icy, making it challenging for anyone to approach her, a true ice maiden. Despite her frigid appearance, this woman actively lures men who enter the snowy mountains into her home, where she kisses them. After the kiss, the men find their bodies stiffening, ultimately transforming into frozen sculptures. Subsequently, the woman takes away the men's souls to consume. This mysterious woman is none other than the renowned yokai from Hyakki Yagyo, YUKI-ONNA, also known as the Snow Lady. Despite being infamous for her malevolent image, it is said that the Snow Lady once developed feelings for a kind-hearted herbalist. They shared a deep connection, resulting in the birth of a child known as Yuki-Doji. In Japanese folklore, Yuki-Doji is believed to be the yokai responsible for bringing the first snow of winter, a harbinger of the season's icy beauty. The tale of Snow Lady and the herbalist unfolds as follows. A young herbalist named Miyamoto ventured alone into the deep mountains to gather the rare snow lotus. However, he became lost in the wilderness. While searching for a way down the mountain, Miyamoto stumbled upon the dwelling of Snow Lady. Unaware of the true identity of the woman before him, he humbly requested some food and guidance on the path down the mountain. Snow Lady observed the young man before her with curiosity. Contrary to her expectations, he was not captivated by her beauty. Instead, his sole desire was to leave the place, setting him apart from other men who had encountered her. Revealing her true form, Snow Lady froze Miyamoto's feet and conveyed to him that if he kept their encounter a secret until the end of his days, she would not harm him and would assist him in descending the mountain. Miyamoto promptly agreed to Snow Lady terms, and true to her word, she guided him safely down the mountain. Many years later, Miyamoto built a family, marrying a beautiful wife, and they were blessed with a son. Their household was filled with happiness. However, on a rainy night, Miyamoto, under the influence of alcohol, shared the story of how he was rescued by Snow Lady in his youth. Upon hearing these words, his wife started to cry. It turned out that she was the very Snow Lady from years past. To protect Miyamoto, she had chosen to become human. Snow Lady expressed that due to the many years of marital affection between her and Miyamoto, she had no intention of claiming his life. Afterward, she disappeared along with their son. Until the day Miyamoto passed away, he never discovered the whereabouts of his wife and child. Despite the subsequent negative reputation surrounding Snow Lady, why didn't people criticize Miyamoto for failing to keep the secret? The NURE-ONNA, or known as Drenched Maiden, is a yokai that is said to haunt coastal areas. It is believed to be the transformed spirit of a woman who drowned at sea. With a serpent-like lower body and an upper body resembling a beautiful woman with waist-length wet hair, she lures men and devours them as if they were her prey. Drenched Maiden possesses an extraordinarily long serpent tail, reportedly reaching a length of approximately 330 meters. On certain nights, she perches on coastal rocks, revealing only the upper portion of her female form. Seductively combing her windblown long hair, she waits. Should someone be captivated by her allure and approach her with conversation, she swiftly unleashes her hidden serpent tail submerged in water, entwining and ensnaring her unsuspecting prey. She reveals her monstrous visage, splitting open a gaping maw and emitting an ear-piercing shriek that could almost rupture eardrums. From her mouth, she releases a forked, serpent-like tongue. In one breath, she drains the entire body of her victim's blood and ultimately drags the unfortunate soul into the depths of the sea. Drenched Maiden preys upon individuals, regardless of gender, and anyone who approaches her alone is destined to become her food. Local residents in Kagoshima Prefecture widely believe that encountering drenched maiden leads to severe illness, so the local fishermen avoid going out to sea on the evenings of Obon Festival, New Year's Eve, and July 18th. According to legend, it is said that drenched maiden has a fear of soft-shelled turtles. When individuals venture alone near the seaside at night, they can carry soft-shelled turtles to ward off drenched maiden. However, the best approach is to avoid getting close to a wet, upper-bodied, beautiful woman combing her long hair by the seaside at night. Remember, lust is a double-edged sword. Rokurokubi is a type of long-necked yokai that gained widespread popularity during Japan's Edo period. Typically depicted as female, these supernatural beings possess the unique ability to extend and retract their necks at will. By day, Rokurokubi appear as ordinary women. However, when night falls, their bodies remain dormant while their necks stretch to extraordinary lengths, allowing them to roam freely. During these nocturnal excursions, their heads may engage in various activities, such as attacking small animals, using their long tongues to lick up lamp oil, or simply causing mischief by frightening nearby individuals. Beginning in the Edo period, stories emerged depicting instances where people's necks would elongate while they were asleep. Examples of these tales include works such as Buyazakuta, Kanden Kohitsu, and Yeso Kiden. An ancient tale originating from Tatami province recounts the story of a monk who ran away with a young woman named Ayatsu. During their journey, Ayatsu fell ill. Faced with the dilemma of using up all their travel funds for her treatment, the monk resorted to a heinous act. He murdered Ayatsu and stole the remaining money. During his journey, the malevolent monk lodged at an inn run by a man with a beautiful daughter. Engaging in immoral behavior, the monk shared a bed with the innkeeper's daughter. However, in the midst of the night, a supernatural event unfolded. Her neck elongated, and her visage transformed into that of Ayatsu. Accusing him vehemently, she revealed his crime of murdering her. The following morning, consumed by remorse for his wicked deeds, the monk confessed the murder of Ayatsu to the innkeeper. He also disclosed the eerie occurrence he had witnessed the night before. The innkeeper, confronted by the confessions, admitted to his own heinous act, murdering his wife for her wealth. He utilized the ill-gotten gains to establish his inn, and as a retribution for his crime, his own daughter underwent a transformation into a Rokurokubi. Subsequently, the repentant monk returned to his temple, constructed a grave for Ayatsu, and diligently prayed for her soul each day. The fate of the innkeeper's daughter, however, remains undisclosed in the tale. Due to the frequent separation of the head and body in the long-necked yokai, there was a peculiar custom during the Edo period. Women who were observed with red thread entwined around their necks were associated with an unwritten taboo. The prevailing belief was that men should absolutely refrain from marrying a woman with a red-threaded neck. This cautionary practice likely stemmed from the fear that a bride adorned with such red thread might be the incarnation of a long-necked yokai. In ancient times, people classified long-necked yokai into two types: those whose necks elongated at night, and those whose heads detached from their bodies, flying to different locations and returning by morning. The Rokurokubi mentioned earlier falls into the first category, being a long-necked yokai with the ability to extend and retract its neck at will. The second type of long-necked yokai is characterized by the entire head separating from the body, flying to various places, and returning in the morning. This variant is known as Nekekubi, or more commonly referred to as HITOUBAN. Both share the commonality of leading seemingly ordinary lives during the day but transforming into yokai at night. Some individuals are unaware that they are long-necked yokai and, therefore, or unconsciously compelled by some external force. Although they appear no different from ordinary people during the day, their true yokai nature only reveals itself after nightfall, once everyone has entered the realm of dreams. Initially, their necks suddenly elongate, followed by a complete separation of the head from the neck and body. During this phase, the head and body reconnect, and upon waking, they move about like regular individuals. Often, the person has no recollection of what transpired or what they witnessed during their yokai form, adding an element of intrigue to their nocturnal activities. Compared to ROKUROKUBI, HITOUBAN is considered a rather terrifying yokai. Legend has it that HITOUBAN is a long-necked yokai capable of roaming freely with its own thoughts, and it has a gruesome habit of sucking human blood, ultimately killing its victims. At times, these creatures even gather in groups of 5, engaging in collective and, one might say, quite frightening actions. Inside, in search of the supernatural, a renowned collection of strange tales from China's Jin dynasty, the entity known as Luotushi corresponds to HITOUBAN. Similar yokai legends, such as Palasik, Quyang, Layak in Indonesia, Penanggalan in Malaysia, and Kraju in Thailand, are believed to have originated from the HITOUBAN urban legend. A well-known tale from Ekizan province recounts the unfortunate story of a young woman plagued by the curse of the HITOUBAN. At night, her head would detach from her body and roam the capital city, relentlessly pursuing young men through the streets and all the way back to their homes. When locked out, the disembodied head would scratch and bite at their doors and gates, leaving deep gashes in the wood. Upon discovering the nature of her curse, the young woman was overcome with shame. She decided to seek a divorce from her husband, and as an act of repentance, she ritually cut off all of her hair. Consumed by the belief that it was preferable to die than to live the remainder of her life as a monstrous being, she tragically took her own life. In a tale originating from Hitachi, a man married to a HITOUBAN learned from a peddler that the curse could be lifted by consuming the liver of a white-haired dog. Since he owned such a dog, he killed it and fed its liver to his wife. Miraculously, she was cured of the affliction. Unfortunately, the curse persisted and passed on to her daughter, whose detached head took to fatally biting white dogs. Alternative accounts propose a different solution by relocating the sleeping body to a secure place during the night. The head is unable to return, eventually leading to its demise. However, this remedy is not one that most families are willing to attempt. The Futakuchi-ONNA, a yokai featured in Japanese folklore, is depicted as a woman with 2 mouths. In addition to the regular mouth, the second mouth is said to be located either on the top of the head or near the back of the neck according to various legends. The second mouth is larger than the normal one and can consume several times the amount of food. According to the Hyakki Yagyo, any woman who is promiscuous, engages in inappropriate behavior such as urinating or defecating in public, commits adultery behind her husband's back, engages in lewd or immoral conduct, or even kills her own young children, may become possessed by the Futakuchi-ONNA. Once possessed, an additional mouth will grow on the back of the neck of the woman, which constantly demands food. Eventually, the possessed individual may be eaten to death by the yokai, making it a highly dangerous creature. During normal times, the second mouth of the woman is concealed by her hair. However, when no one is nearby and there is food in front of her, the second mouth of the woman will use her hair as tentacles to grab and consume the food. Even more terrifying is the belief that the second mouth of the woman can also use her hair to capture small animals such as cats, dogs, and mice and devour them, with the ultimate goal of eating the host until she is stuffed to death. One of the most famous versions of the FUTAKUCHI-ONNA legend originates from Fukushima Prefecture. The story unfolds in a small rural village where a stingy miser lived. Unable to bear the expense of feeding a family, the miser lived alone. One day, the miser encountered a woman who never seemed to eat anything, and he promptly decided to marry her. He was delighted with her, believing she was a diligent worker who never needed food. However, his rice supplies began mysteriously dwindling, despite never seeing his wife eat. Determined to uncover the truth, the miser pretended to leave for work one day but secretly spied on his wife. To his horror, he witnessed her untie her hair, revealing a second mouth on the back of her head with grotesque lips and teeth. Her hair extended like tentacles, scooping rice balls into the second mouth, which emitted vulgar, raspy sounds of pleasure. Appalled, the miser resolved to divorce his wife immediately. She discovered his intentions and trapped him in a bathtub, carrying him off into the mountains. Fortunately, the miser managed to escape and hid in a heavily scented lily marsh where the FUTAKUCHI-ONNA couldn't find him. In the Edo period collection of strange tales, Ihon Hayake Monogatari, there's an alternate interpretation of the FUTAKUCHI-ONNA legend. In the region known as Shimizu, present-day Chiba Prefecture, there lived a man who remarried after his wife passed away, and they had a daughter together. His second wife began to mistreat the daughter from his previous marriage, depriving her of food until she starved to death. 49 days after the girl's death, while the man was chopping wood, he accidentally injured the back of his second wife's head. Though it bled profusely, it did not endanger her life. After the wound healed, it formed into the shape of a human mouth, with parts of her skull protruding to resemble teeth, and some of the flesh on her head transforming into a tongue. This wound throbbed with pain constantly, and feeding the mouth was the only way to alleviate the agony. As the mouth's appetite grew, if the woman didn't feed it, the mouth would control her hair like tentacles to feed itself. Eventually, the woman was consumed to death by the mouth, which uttered a single sentence upon her demise: "This is retribution for killing the daughter of my former wife." The folktale of the FUTAKUCHI-ONNA serves as a cautionary tale for miserly and abusive husbands. And the story of a man withholding food from his wife to save resources is often recounted by elders as a cautionary tale or even a humorous anecdote for children. Dodomeki are infamous as cursed women with abnormally long arms adorned with countless tiny bird eyes. Legend has it that they were once human girls who developed a habit of stealing money. As punishment for their wicked deeds, hundreds of tiny bird eyeballs sprouted from their arms, transforming them into yokai. The elongated arms of a Dodomeki symbolize the Japanese belief that individuals with long arms are inclined to steal. The bird eyes that cover the Dodomeki's arms are reminiscent of the Japanese dosen, a copper coin with a hole in the center commonly referred to as kamoku or bird eyes. It's said that a Dodomeki is considered to have stolen nearly 100 times, and the presence of 100 bird eyes on her body serves as proof of this. Legend has it that there was a nobleman named Hidesato who had recently been appointed as the Kakushi of Shimizu province for his bravery in quelling a rebellion. One day, while hunting in his newly acquired countryside, Hidesato was approached by an old man who warned him of sightings of a yokai at the horse graveyard. Taking heed of the warning, Hidesato armed himself with his bow and arrow and set out to investigate. Upon reaching the horse graveyard and waiting until nightfall, Hidesato encountered an enormous yokai devouring horse carcasses voraciously. This yokai stood over 10 feet tall, possessed sharp, spiked hair, and was covered in glowing eyes all over its body, the Dodomeki. With precision, Hidesato aimed his arrow at the brightest glowing eyeball and let it fly. The arrow struck its target, causing the Dodomeki to roar in agony before fleeing into the woods, ultimately collapsing at the foot of the mountain. The battle was far from over as Dodomeki, near fatally wounded, transformed into the form of a woman, emitting fierce flames from her body. The intense heat proved overwhelming for Ide-Sato, forcing him to abandon his pursuit of Dodomeki. When Ide-Sato returned the next day, he found the ground blackened and scorched over a large area, but there was no trace of Dodomeki. 400 years later, during the Muromachi period, Dodomeki resurfaced. A village had emerged on the northern slope of Mount Myojin, where peculiar occurrences had begun unfolding. The head priest of the temple suffered mysterious injuries, and unexplained fires erupted within the temple's confines. Seeking answers, the villagers summoned a new head priest renowned for his virtue and holiness, Saint Chitoku, to uncover the cause of these strange phenomena. Saint Chitoku noticed a young woman who frequently visited the temple during his sermons and suspected her to be the Dodomeki in disguise. He learned that the demon, gravely wounded, had sought refuge in nearby caves to heal. There, it transformed into a young woman and visited the site where it fell, gradually collecting the blood it had shed during the battle with Ide-Sato. The village temple had been erected atop this battleground, and the Dodomeki instigated fires and attacked the priest to intimidate the villagers. One fateful day, Saint Chitoku confronted the demon in its disguised form, and it finally revealed its true identity as a Dodomeki. However, instead of attacking him, the Dodomeki confessed that while frequenting the temple, she had been deeply moved by Chitoku's powerful sermons, which had left a profound impact on her. In the end, under Chitoku's guidance, the Dodomeki renounced its demonic ways and attained enlightenment. As a result, there is a famous road known as the Dodomeki Pass on the western side of Mount Myojin in Utsunomiya City, and many place names in the area are associated with the Dodomeki legend. In Japanese folklore, there is a creature known as KASA OBAKE. Its appearance is that of an umbrella, characterized by a single eye, a protruding tongue, a single leg, and often dressed in traditional Japanese geta sandals. KASA OBAKE is said to be a Chinese umbrella that was collected for 100 years during the Edo period. This umbrella was exquisitely crafted with intricate and beautiful designs, revered as a work of art passed down through generations. Due to the continuous warfare among feudal lords during that turbulent era, the Chinese umbrella eventually faced the fate of abandonment. Absorbing the essence of countless nights and days over more than a century, it transformed into a yokai known as KASA OBAKE. KASA OBAKE is typically depicted as a one-eyed umbrella with a single leg hopping around. However, at times they may exhibit additional features like two arms or two eyes. Their personality is mischievous, as these yokai beings delight in appearing on rainy nights and playfully engaging with solitary pedestrians. They hop around in front of individuals, giving the impression of wanting to play. Most ordinary people would flee upon encountering such a creature, but some bolder individuals might choose to engage in playful interaction with this yokai. After playing with KASA OBAKE on a rainy night, if satisfied, KASA OBAKE might generously offer itself for the person to use as an umbrella. While it is feasible to use KASA OBAKE as an umbrella, one would hope for calm weather at this point. Otherwise, both KASA OBAKE and the user might be blown into the sky by a strong wind, disappearing without a trace, never to be seen again. Itamomen is a yokai in Japanese folklore. The term tan includes the unit of area measurement in Japan, roughly equivalent to 990 square meters today. Momen refers to cotton, specifically fabric made from cotton. The overall appearance of the yokai, Itamomen, is that of a long strip of cotton cloth, often depicted as a white, supernatural being. Legend has it that whenever someone walks alone at night, TAMAMO-NO-MAE has the chance to appear. It entwines around people's necks, covering their faces, causing them to suffocate and perish. Additionally, TAMAMO-NO-MAE can swiftly take flight while still wrapped around its target, carrying the person into the air. The earliest tales of TAMAMO-NO-MAE originated in Kagoshima, and in the Takayama region of Kagoshima Prefecture, there were rumors of a murder attributed to TAMAMO-NO-MAE. The victim reportedly died from suffocation, leading locals to believe that the person had been strangled by TAMAMO-NO-MAE wrapping around their head. Moreover, there is a legend that recounts an incident where a samurai was attacked by TAMAMO-NO-MAE. Fortunately, the vigilant samurai swiftly unsheathed his sword, slashing at TAMAMO-NO-MAE and severing a portion of it. The creature, thwarted by the attack, fled the scene, leaving the samurai's blade stained with blood. In many regions of Japan, there are widespread rumors of TAMAMO-NO-MAE sightings. Consequently, many parents use the threat of TAMAMO-NO-MAE's appearance to scare their children who are returning home late after playing outside. This tactic is employed to discourage their children from venturing out at night. As for the existence of TAMAMO-NO-MAE as a real yokai, we have no way to verify. However, the prevailing belief is that the legend of TAMAMO-NO-MAE being rumored to appear only at night may have originated from a time when parents, engaged in agricultural activities throughout the day, couldn't supervise their children. Therefore, the story of TAMAMO-NO-MAE might have served as a cautionary tale to warn against the dangers of staying out too late. NURIKABE is a yokai passed down in the northern part of Kyushu, Japan. According to legend, when a traveler walks the streets at night, an invisible wall suddenly appears, blocking their path. Even if one attempts to pass through the wall, it continues to move left and right, preventing the traveler from advancing. This yokai named NURIKABE translates to plaster wall. It manifests as an unseen wall, obstructing or misleading travelers during their nocturnal journeys. NURIKABE is quite tall, designed to prevent people from climbing over it. It is also wide enough to hinder anyone attempting to go around it, ensuring that those targeted by it are destined to be trapped. However, there is a method of escape. Striking the lower half of the wall with a hard object can make NURIKABE disappear. However, one must avoid striking the upper half of the wall, as it will provoke NURIKABE. In this enraged state, it will open its red eyes and collapses, crushing the person who struck it. The reason why NURIKABE plays tricks on travelers is said to be because it originates from a transformed tanuki, a raccoon. In ancient Japan, people believed that tanuki could shapeshift by placing a leaf on their forehead, allowing them to take on various forms. NURIKABE is considered to be one of these transformations. Tanuki are known for their mischievous nature, and it's not hard to imagine that even after transforming into NURIKABE, they would continue to play tricks on travelers. The legend of NURIKABE also has another version, found in the Hyakki Yago Amaki. In this version, NURIKABE is depicted as a three-eyed creature resembling a lion or a dog, distinct from the wall-like NURIKABE known for its mischievous pranks. The three-eyed lion-dog version of NURIKABE is portrayed as a more ferocious yokai that attacks humans. According to the legend, certain walls conceal the yokai NURIKABE. When someone approaches, the wall emits a low growling sound resembling a dog's bark. If the person hears it but chooses not to respond or pretends not to hear, NURIKABE emerges from the wall and drags the individual inside to devour them. But if the person chooses to respond to NURIKABE, the yokai will joyfully emerge from the wall to play with them. However, NURIKABE doesn't control its strength, and the person's fate can be equally dismal. The most effective way to escape is to start running upon hearing NURIKABE's low growling sound, heading towards a place with other people. While NURIKABE may give chase, like most yokai, it avoids crowded areas. Therefore, it tends to disappear when other people are around. Tofu-KOZO is a yokai of Japan that appears in the form of a child carrying a tray of tofu. They are small creatures resembling human children, but with oversized heads, clawed fingers, and toes. They typically wear traditional boys' kimonos and wide-brimmed hats. Tofu-KOZO are timid and feeble yokai, and they rarely exhibit aggression towards humans. Occasionally, on rainy nights, a Tofu-KOZO may follow a human home, but they usually avoid confrontation. Tofu-KOZO primarily serve as subordinate yokai. Even among other yokai, they are often bullied and ridiculed for their lack of strength. They receive little respect from their peers and often serve as mere menial servants to more powerful yokai. But is this the full extent of Tofu-KOZO's nature? Legend has it that if someone walks alone on a rainy night, they might encounter Tofu-KOZO. Contrary to popular belief, Tofu-KOZO isn't necessarily shy. Instead of avoiding people, he might offer a plate of delicious tofu to the passerby. Should the person accept Tofu-KOZO's tofu, they'll find that halfway through eating it, the tofu starts to mold. Eventually, the person's entire body will begin to mold, leading to death due to food poisoning. But why does Tofu-KOZO, a seemingly harmless yokai, possess such deadly power? It all goes back to his father. In Bakemono Shiuchi Hyobun Ki by Koikawa Haramachi, during the Inai era, Tofu-KOZO's father is specified to be the infamous yokai Mikashi Nudo, and his mother is specified to be the yokai Rokurokubi. Regarding the yokai legend of Rokurokubi, you can check out my previous video where I introduced and shared stories about it. Mikashi Nudo, on the other hand, is a formidable yokai capable of manipulating its body size. Moreover, it's known for its extreme cruelty, as it would hover above and bite off the heads of passers-by. With such powerful yokai parents, Tofu-KOZO might not be as harmless as he appears. It's not difficult to understand why he would harm humans. As previously mentioned, Tofu-KOZO was often depicted as a servant, but there were earlier yokai servants such as HITOTSUME-KOZO, Tanuki, and KAPPA. Since HITOTSUME-KOZO and KAPPA have been associated with tofu, there's a theory suggesting a connection between these yokai and Tofu-KOZO, as well as a theory proposing that Tofu-KOZO was inspired by these yokai. HITOTSUME-KOZO is a well-known yokai across Japan, characterized by its childlike appearance and mischievous nature. These beings resemble tiny Buddhist monks, sporting shaved heads and robes, with a distinctive feature being their single, enormous eye and long red tongues. While HITOTSUME-KOZO typically do not cause harm, their most notable trait is their tendency to suddenly appear and startle people on dark streets. It seems they derive enjoyment from surprising, unsuspecting passers-by. Their behavior can be likened to that of the KASA OBAKE, another yokai known for its mischievous antics. Due to their non-malicious nature, HITOTSUME-KOZO are often depicted in pictures with a cute or humorous design, reflecting their harmless demeanor. An anecdote from Fukushima Prefecture recounts an encounter with a young lady walking the streets at night. A little boy approached her from behind, offering money. Delighted, she turned to face him, only to discover that he was a HITOTSUME-KOZO. Instead of bearing riches, he wore a mischievous grin, his single eye fixated on her so intensely that she fainted in shock on the spot. Apart from their mischievous pranks, HITOTSUME-KOZO have a significant responsibility. In eastern Japan, it's believed that every year on December 8th, HITOTSUME-KOZO traverse the land, meticulously noting down in ledgers the households that have behaved poorly throughout the year. They utilize this information to determine the fate of each family for the upcoming year. These reports are then delivered to the Yakubi-Agami, the god of pestilence and bad luck, who administers appropriate misfortunes upon those deemed deserving. However, HITOTSUME-KOZO entrusts their ledgers to the guardian deity of travel for safekeeping until February 8th. In a ceremony held in mid-January, local villagers traditionally burn down and reconstruct the roadside shrines of this deity, hoping that the flames will also incinerate the HITOTSUME-KOZO ledgers before they are retrieved, thus averting disaster for the year. Have you ever wondered what HITOTSUME-KOZO would grow up to become? According to records from the Edo period in Japan, there exists a yokai resembling a monk, adorned with a straw hat and possessing only one eye. Like HITOTSUME-KOZO, this yokai carries a ledger hanging from its chest. However, instead of appearing as a child, it takes on an adult form. This leads people to believe that this monk-like yokai is the grown-up version of HITOTSUME-KOZO. Compared to the mischievous antics of HITOTSUME-KOZO, this matured version is much more malevolent. It takes pleasure in observing humans perish in agony from up close, using its ledger as a tool to inflict suffering. It is said that by writing the name of the person you hate the most in HITOTSUME-KOZO's ledger, the Book of Death Grudges, that individual will inexplicably suffer for 3 days and nights, ultimately perishing in despair. HITOTSUME-KOZO then watches the person's agony up close before their demise, deriving immense satisfaction from it. The Book of Death Grudges only takes effect when someone writes the name of the person they hate. If HITOTSUME-KOZO were to write a name in the ledger, it would have no effect. However, since people typically don't harbor so much hatred towards each other, HITOTSUME-KOZO resorts to manipulation and deceit to incite animosity in individuals towards others. The ultimate goal is to induce unwarranted hatred towards someone, prompting them to write that person's name in the Book of Death Grudges. This serves HITOTSUME-KOZO's purpose of observing others' suffering, making it a scammer of the yokai realms. If someone's name is unfortunately written in the Book of Death Grudges, the only way to break the curse is for the person who wrote the name to personally tear it out within 3 days. However, the person who wrote the name will then suffer in the victim's place. For HITOTSUME-KOZO, it doesn't matter who dies, as long as they derive pleasure from it. Thus, the moment HITOTSUME-KOZO persuades someone to write a name, its objective is achieved. Whether it's TOFU-KOZO or HITOTSUME-KOZO, these seemingly weak yokai should not be underestimated, as we often don't know how powerful they can become as they grow older. ZASHIKI-WARASHI is a mythical yokai or spirit believed to inhabit homes and warehouses. Appearing as a child, its presence in a household is said to bring prosperity. Most stories about ZASHIKI-WARASHI come from the central region of Iwate Prefecture. It is typically depicted as a 5 to 6 year old child with a red face and bobbed or cropped hair. Though its age can range from 3 to 15 years old, depending on the region. Both boys and girls exist. Boys often wear black striped kimonos, while girls wear red kimonos, sometimes with long sleeves. ZASHIKI-WARASHI loves playing pranks. It sometimes leaves small footprints made of coal dust or white powder around the house. It may make loud footsteps in the middle of the night, keeping everyone awake, or scare you with strange noises when you're home alone, even making it sound like conversations are happening in an empty room. At night, it might run back and forth on guest beds or pillows, or press down on them, causing nightmares, a phenomenon known as sleep paralysis. Despite its mischievous nature, ZASHIKI-WARASHI warns the household of impending misfortune, such as fires, allowing them to avoid disasters. ZASHIKI-WARASHI communicates directly with children because it itself is a childlike yokai, and enjoys being close to other children. It is said that children can see ZASHIKI-WARASHI, while adults cannot. Sometimes, a child might seem to be talking or playing with an invisible friend, which could be proof of ZASHIKI-WARASHI's presence in the home. In folk beliefs, the defining characteristic of a ZASHIKI-WARASHI is that its presence ensures a household's prosperity, while its departure leads to the family's decline. Similar to the Japanese household gods, ZASHIKI-WARASHI is considered a guardian spirit overseeing the family's fortunes. Its ability to bring happiness is so strong that it can sweep away misfortune and negativity from wherever it goes. Because of this, some selfish landlords, in collaboration with evil sorcerers, would use barriers to trap the ZASHIKI-WARASHI, preventing it from leaving their homes. They understood the habits of ZASHIKI-WARASHI and wanted to keep it there forever. It is said that if a ZASHIKI-WARASHI leaves your household, your good luck will be exhausted, and terrible misfortune will follow. The Tono Monogatari records a legend where a whole family perished from food poisoning after the ZASHIKI-WARASHI left their home. In Iwate Prefecture's Tsuchibuchi village, a wealthy family faced misfortune when one of their children accidentally shot an arrow at a ZASHIKI-WARASHI, causing it to leave in anger. Their good fortune disappeared instantly, and the family soon fell into ruin, ultimately leading to their demise. Some believe that the departure of a ZASHIKI-WARASHI and the subsequent decline of a household is related to the belief that the departure of the Japanese god of poverty, Binbagami, results in renewed prosperity for a family. Unlike other yokai, ZASHIKI-WARASHI does not cause harm. However, if humans offend it, it will leave without hesitation. Once ZASHIKI-WARASHI leaves, the household will inevitably fall into decline. Therefore, some people are wary of how easily ZASHIKI-WARASHI can leave. Overall, ZASHIKI-WARASHI is a childlike, kind yokai that does not harm humans. Although ZASHIKI-WARASHI symbolizes good fortune and happiness, its origins are far from pleasant. Here is a widely circulated tale about the unfortunate creation of ZASHIKI-WARASHI. During the Kamakura period in Japan, in a small, dilapidated house in Iwate Prefecture, a little girl and her mother lived together, relying on each other. The father had passed away early, and the mother was gravely ill. So the girl had to gather herbs in the mountains every day to sustain their lives. One day, as usual, the little girl left early in the morning to gather herbs but never returned. Strangely, fresh herbs continued to appear at their doorstep every day, allowing the mother to maintain her health and even recover from her illness. The herbs appearing daily puzzled the mother, who asked the villagers, but no one knew what was happening. Determined to uncover the truth, she hid near the door and watched. Early one morning, she saw a girl who looked like her daughter arriving with herbs in hand. When she called out loudly, the girl suddenly ran away. The mother chased her to the edge of a cliff. The girl turned to look at her, tears streaming down her face, and then jumped into the mist and disappeared. When the mother reached the cliff's edge, she found her daughter's herb-gathering basket and a single shoe. It turned out that her daughter had fallen off the cliff and died while gathering herbs. Because of her deep attachment to her mother, she returned as a ZASHIKI-WARASHI. She didn't want others to suffer the same misfortune and thus chose to help impoverished families. Additionally, some scholars believe that ZASHIKI-WARASHI is the spirit of a child who was killed and buried under the floor of a house. In the Tohoku region, there was a practice known as wushigoroshi, where families, to reduce their living burden, would crush an unaffordable child under a millstone and bury them beneath the kitchen floor. Heavy rains or earthquakes might expose the child's remains, or their spirit might appear, leading families to explain these sightings as ZASHIKI-WARASHI to cover up the grim truth. This represents a darker version of the legend. Regardless of the version, as time progressed, ZASHIKI-WARASHI evolved from a guardian spirit to a mischievous yokai. However, the tales of it bringing happiness and good fortune remain unchanged. So, if one day you see a child talking to themselves or playing with an unseen friend, it might just be the presence of a ZASHIKI-WARASHI. Or perhaps, is there a yokai or urban legend you're curious about? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below, and if I find the topic interesting, it might become the focus of a future video. The Kappa is one of the most well-known yokai in Japan. It is commonly depicted as child-sized, with a distinctive smooth, circular area on its head called a dish. This dish must be kept wet at all times, as it is the source of the Kappa's vitality. When it is filled with water, the Kappa is energetic, but if it dries out, the creature becomes weak and can even die. Kappa have hairless, green bodies, a sharp, beak-like mouth, and a turtle-like shell on their backs. They also have webbed fingers and toes, making them well-suited for life in the water. Because of these features, they share a surprising number of similarities with modern depictions of the Ninja Turtles. Additionally, Kappa are known for having a fishy smell, and their appearance is sometimes described as resembling a monkey or an otter. The origin of the Kappa can generally be divided into two regional theories: Western Japan and Eastern Japan. In Western Japan, Kappa are believed to have evolved from the Chinese river deity belief known as Herpo. In Eastern Japan, various legends explain their origin differently. Some say Kappa were Shikigami of AME-ONNA, protective child deities of NURE-ONNA, or dolls created by Hidari Jingoro to assist in his work that later transformed into living beings. An interesting feature often attributed to Kappa is that their arms are connected inside their bodies. It is said that if one arm is pulled off, the other will be removed as well, a characteristic thought to be linked to their possible origin as dolls. AME-ONNA, NURE-ONNA, and Hidari Jingoro are all renowned figures in Japanese history, and their association with the Kappa has helped these legends endure over time. Since the Edo period, the Kappa's image has evolved through popular media, solidifying the modern portrayal we know today, which differs significantly from the Kappa of traditional oral folklore. In its earliest depictions, the Kappa was a terrifying yokai that lived in rivers and ponds, known for dragging swimmers or lone passers-by into the water to drown them. It would then devour their internal organs and the shirikodama, a mythical organ said to be located inside the anus in Japanese folklore. The Kappa's danger wasn't limited to drowning. It was also said to assault women bathing alone by the river, impregnating them with its offspring. Furthermore, it could drive people mad or make them ill, causing great harm to humans. According to legend, Kappa have two notable preferences: sumo wrestling and cucumbers. If you encounter a Kappa and it tries to pull you into the water, offering it a cucumber might save you. If you don't have one, you can challenge it to a sumo match. However, Kappa are formidable wrestlers, and losing means you'll likely still be dragged into the water or suffer madness or illness. Therefore, the best strategy is to avoid swimming alone in rivers altogether. There are countless legends about Kappa, so many that it's hard to distinguish fact from fiction. However, a few stories stand out, one of which is the tale of the Kappa's written oath. It is said that in Hararabun village, near the Onogarwa River, there lived a highly skilled swordsman named Yoshida Bunzaemon. One evening, while returning from a hunting trip, Bunzaemon hurried across the river on stepping stones as dusk fell. As he reached the middle of the river, something glittering caught his eye at the riverbed, a golden cup. Delighted by his apparent good fortune, he bent down to pick it up, but something fell off. A golden cup lying here is too strange. This must be a trick by a Kappa, he thought. Without hesitation, Bunzaemon drew his sword and slashed at the cup. A sharp cry echoed through the air as the cup transformed into a towering Kappa, which fled into the river, bleeding, with one arm severed. Bunzaemon took the Kappa's severed arm home. That night, a fierce wind howled, carrying with it a mournful voice crying, "Return my arm! Return my arm!" Every night, the haunting cries continued. Moved by pity, Bunzaemon eventually summoned the Kappa to his home. He made the Kappa swear never to harm anyone again and to put the promise in writing. Only then did he return its arm. The Kappa's written oath was engraved on a rock by the river, where it remained as a lasting testament. From that day on, no child drowned in the Onogarwa River, and the Kappa never again troubled the villagers. The people attributed this peace to Bunzaemon's courage and wisdom. Though many people have searched for traces of the Kappa, with some even offering rewards for authentic footage, what can be found online today is mostly fabricated. It is said that 2 Kappa mummies are currently preserved in Japan. Most discoveries of Kappa mummies are concentrated in Kyushu, with the most famous being the one held by the Matsuura Brewery in Imari, Saga Prefecture. Measuring about 40 centimeters in length, it matches the description of Kappa given by Yanagita Kunio, resembling a monkey with a dish-like indentation on its head and a monstrous appearance. However, TV investigation suggests that this specimen is likely a fabrication. Another Kappa mummy is reportedly kept at Tsuruuji Temple in Osaka, but the temple has refused all outside interviews regarding the specimen. Oni are among the most iconic figures in Japanese folklore. Towering above even the tallest humans, and sometimes as tall as trees. Oni are fearsome creatures that command both awe and fear. They come in various forms but are commonly depicted with wild, untamed hair, 2 or more horns, and tusk-like fangs. Their skin is often vibrant in color, ranging from red and blue to black and yellow. Oni are typically shown wearing tiger pelt loincloths and carrying massive iron kanabo clubs. Oni have the ability to shapeshift, enabling them to trick their victims by appearing trustworthy. While they can be male or female, Oni have predominantly been portrayed as male throughout history. In disguise, they are capable of taking on the form of either a man or a woman, regardless of their actual gender, making them even more cunning and dangerous. During the Heian period, Oni were often depicted as terrifying monsters that devoured humans. A prominent portrayal of Oni is their ability to consume people in a single bite, a concept known as Oni Hitokuchi. Oni are carnivorous, with humans being one of their favorite foods. If an Oni targets someone, it will first try to approach in the form of a handsome man or beautiful woman. If that fails, the Oni will transform into a relative or friend of the target to get closer. Oni are particularly persistent when it comes to their prey. They will not give up until they have eaten their victim. As one of the most frightening yokai in Japan, Oni are feared for their relentless nature and insatiable hunger. The Izumo no Kuni Fudoki and Nihon Shoki are the earliest written records that describe Oni as entities, rather than as spirits of the dead. During the Heian period, according to the practices of Onmyoto, it was believed that if someone ventured out on a night travel day, they would be attacked by a demon army called the Haki. Many aristocrats would carefully avoid these days for their travels. In the Fuso Ryaki, there is a record of a night in April 929, when demon footprints were discovered in the palace. The footprints were said to be the size of 2 or 3 hooves. This record reflects the belief at the time that Oni footprints were typically described as having 2 or 3 toes. The Nihon Shoki also mentions that even rumors about the appearance of Oni, though unverified, had to be reported to the imperial court and officially recorded in historical texts. This highlights how terrifying the presence of Oni was considered to be. One of the most famous legends involving Oni is the tale of Shuten-Doji, who is regarded as one of Japan's 3 greatest yokai. Shuten-Doji is the most renowned Oni, and another well-known story featuring Oni is the beloved Japanese folktale, the Momotaro legend. The Momotaro legend is about an elderly couple who find a giant peach, and inside, they discover a baby boy, whom they name Momotaro. As he grows, Momotaro learns of Oni terrorizing nearby villages. Determined to stop them, he sets out on a journey, bringing millet dumplings prepared by his adoptive parents. Along the way, Momotaro befriends a dog, a monkey, and a pheasant by sharing his dumplings. They join him, and together, they reach the Oni's island. Using teamwork and their unique skills, they defeat the Oni, who surrender and return the treasures they had stolen. Returning home as heroes, Momotaro and his companions are celebrated for their bravery and unity. There's a type of fish called the anglerfish, which uses the glowing lantern on its head to lure other fish close before swallowing them whole. Similarly, when it comes to the Oni's Oni Hitakuchi, the ability to consume people in a single bite, as I mentioned earlier, there's another chilling legend about how they hunt. It is said that Oni often lie silently in wait at night, hunting their prey in secluded places, typically on desolate bridges. To attract victims, an Oni creates the illusion of a beautiful woman's or a handsome man's head near its mouth. As unsuspecting passersby hear the head crying for help, they are drawn in by its beauty or charm. But as they approach, the Oni strikes, devouring them in one bite. February 3rd is a Japanese festival called Setsubun. During Setsubun, people not only eat ihomaki, a type of sushi roll to wish for good fortune, but also perform an exorcism ritual to drive away the misfortunes of the past year and pray for a prosperous year ahead. In this exorcism ritual, the Oni are the ones being driven out. Whether in temples or homes, people will dress up as Oni, and then temple staff or children will throw beans at the Oni. This is the famous exorcism ritual of Setsubun, Oni wa Soto, Fuku wa Wuchi, meaning out with the Oni and with the good fortune. In ancient Japan, foxes and humans lived closely together, giving rise to numerous legends about these creatures. The earliest relationship between the Japanese people and foxes dates back to the Jomon period, when necklaces were made by piercing the canine teeth and jawbones of foxes. Kitsune have become closely associated with Inari, a Shinto spirit, serving as its messengers. This role has reinforced the fox's supernatural significance. The origin of the association between foxes and rice in Japanese culture is deeply rooted in these ancient connections. During rice cultivation, damage from mice and voles often occurred. From the start of rice farming until the Edo period, the Japanese noticed that foxes were natural enemies of mice and discovered that fox urine had a repellent effect on them. Because the rice growth cycle coincided with the frequency of fox appearances, foxes were considered sacred in folk beliefs. Consequently, they built shrines near rice fields and fed foxes with fried foods to maintain this repellent effect. The legend of the fox as a spiritual creature dates back to ancient times, with tales recorded as early as the Heian period in the Nihon Ryoki. In one such story, a man from Ono district in Mino province encounters a beautiful woman in the wilderness. They marry and have children, but the woman, revealed to be a wild fox, returns to the wild after a dog discovers her true identity. Undeterred, the man addresses the fox, saying, "Have you forgotten our bond? We have children together. Come, let us sleep." It is said that the man named the woman Kitsune based on this encounter, although some interpretations suggest this was merely wordplay rather than an actual name. Most tales of Kitsune involve wild foxes punishing wicked priests, greedy merchants, and boastful drunkards by creating phantom sounds and sights, stealing from them, or publicly humiliating them. Kitsune are highly intelligent and powerful shapeshifters. They frequently harass humans by transforming into giants or other fearsome monsters, sometimes for pranks and sometimes for more sinister purposes. They can transform into exact likenesses of individuals, often appearing as beautiful women to deceive young men. They even go so far as to disrupt marriages, replacing the original wife. Kitsune even spend most of their time living in human form, adopting human names and customs, engaging in human jobs, and even raising families. When startled, intoxicated, or careless, their disguises may fail, and the Kitsune true nature may be revealed through a tail, a patch of fur, fangs, or other distinctive fox features. In Chinese Kitsune legends, foxes can transform into women after 50 years of cultivation, become beauties after 100 years, and ascend to immortality after 1,000 years. Their tails can store spiritual energy, and when enough energy is absorbed, the tail splits in two. If it splits into 9 tails, they gain immortality. After reaching 1,000 years of age and gaining its 9th tail, a Kitsune turns white or golden, becoming a Tenko or celestial fox, the most powerful form of the Kitsune, and then ascends to the heavens. From the spring and autumn period to the Han Dynasty in China, foxes were considered auspicious creatures. But by the Tang Dynasty, they gradually transformed into Kitsune capable of enchanting humans. In Chinese, there's a special term used to refer to women who seduce men, known as Huli Jing, perhaps related to the legends of Kitsune enchanting humans. Kitsunebi is an atmospheric ghost light found in legends throughout Japan, excluding Okinawa Prefecture. It appears as a cluster of floating orbs of light, often shining as brightly as lanterns and usually in shades of red or orange. Kitsunebi only appear at night, manifesting as a long chain of glowing orbs stretching hundreds or even thousands of meters, reminiscent of lanterns carried by unseen bearers. Often, the Kitsune responsible for these fireballs stand invisibly next to the flames. These Kitsunebi are created by foxes, who breathe out balls of fire to illuminate their paths in the darkness. Their presence typically indicates the proximity of a large number of kitsune, often heralding yokai gatherings such as the Monster Parade, Haki-Yagyo, yokai wedding ceremonies, and other processions or meetings. While Kitsunebi themselves aren't inherently dangerous to humans, the wild foxes manipulating these mysterious lights could pose a threat. Occasionally, Kitsunebi are employed to deceive humans, leading them astray from their paths at night as a mischievous prank. In more sinister scenarios, they serve as a lure to draw curious humans into the darkness, where they may encounter a group of hungry yokai. Following Kitsunebi is never advisable. They only lead people to places they shouldn't venture. Nekomata, commonly known as cat yokai, are legendary creatures from Japanese folklore, often appearing in folk tales and ghost stories. There are typically two types of Nekomata. One originates from wild cats living in the mountains, while the other comes from elderly domestic cats. Nekomata have large, pointed ears, double-edged serrated teeth, and can walk upright. Their most distinctive feature is their two tails. According to legend, the longer a cat's tail, the wiser it becomes. As a cat reaches a certain age, its wisdom increases and eventually, its tail splits into two, signifying it has transformed into a yokai. Nekomata first appeared in the Neon Ryoiki, specifically in the Haki-Yagyo under the In volume. They are considered highly spiritual yokai and are believed to be one of the most realistic yokai by Japanese folklore. Initially, Nekomata could transform into an old woman to deceive passing travelers. At first, they merely wanted to play tricks on people, but upon discovering that humans could sustain their lives, Nekomata began to hunt and consume humans. Because many elderly people, whose children are not around, like to keep cats and dogs as companions, legends particularly mention that Nekomata might harm their elderly owners and use their yokai powers to manipulate corpses like puppets. Nekomata spend a lot of spiritual energy to transform and cast spells, so they need a substantial amount of spiritual energy and nutrients, which humans can provide. Nekomata, transformed into an old woman, preys on lost travelers in the forest, then takes on the appearance of the victim to deceive the next person. When Nekomata accumulate enough spiritual energy, they can transform into a beautiful woman, irresistibly luring men and increasing the number of victims. It is said that in the Kamakura period essay collection Tsuruzuregusa, there is a record of a creature called Nekomata in the deep mountains, which is terrifying and eats people. At that time, a certain village was attacked by a yokai living in the forest, making the villagers afraid to go out. Eventually, they organized a hunting team to kill the monster. After sacrificing countless villagers, they successfully defeated the monster and discovered that it was a giant cat with two tails, the size of a dog. The term mata in Nekomata originates from the bifurcation of the tail into two parts, also meaning duplication. As cats age, they change shape. And one theory suggests the name comes from the skin of old cats peeling and hanging down, creating the appearance of additional or split tails. The stronger a Nekomata's yokai power, the more pronounced the tail bifurcation. In dim light, the back of a Nekomata may glow. The ultimate Nekomata is a pure two-tailed cat. Encountering one is not a good omen. They are extremely ferocious, using tiger-like teeth to tear apart and devour other mountain yokai, as well as harming humans and livestock. So the best way to deal with a two-tailed cat is to stay away from it. Nekomata are not only ferocious and man-eating yokai, but also possess a terrifying ability to cause corpses to reanimate. Hence, the ancient admonition to keep cats away from graves. Both Chinese and Japanese folklore tell of corpses or graves being reanimated after being touched by a cat. This belief persists today, possibly stemming from the tradition in Chinese culture to watch over the deceased for 3 days. If unfilial descendants neglect this duty, leaving the coffin unattended and allowing cats to jump on it, the deceased may reanimate to reprimand their neglectful offspring. This may be the origin of the legend of Nekomata causing corpse reanimation, or it could be a cautionary tale from elders to ensure proper care of parents. Due to some superstitions linking cats with the dead and the fact that cats are carnivorous animals sensitive to the smell of decay, there are beliefs that associate cats with corpses. Therefore, Nekomata are sometimes considered the same as the yokai kasha, which steals corpses. Additionally, Nekomata are often confused with another cat-like yokai, bakaneko. The distinction between them is often ambiguous. But the largest difference is that the Nekomata has 2 tails, while the bakaneko has only 1. Although Nekomata are not listed among the 3 great yokai of Japan, their influence on Japanese culture is extensive and profound. There are many interesting anecdotes about Nekomata, such as the existence of a dedicated Nekomata alliance. Their research on Nekomata is astonishingly deep, and their base includes the famous Japanese tourist destination Nekomata Mountain, located in Nekomata Valley, near the famous Kintaro Onsen. Cats are undoubtedly the preferred pet for most people, but it's wise to be cautious when choosing a cat. If you end up with a 2-tailed cat, the next time your friend visits, the one greeting them might not be you. In 2018, an internet urban legend known as the Momo Challenge swept across the globe, causing widespread panic. The challenge featured a terrifying female face with a bird-like body, spreading through social media, luring people into dangerous behavior. This visually shocking figure quickly grabbed public attention, leaving many parents and teenagers trapped in fear and anxiety. The challenge was not only widely reported by major news outlets, but was also seen as an online threat, even prompting official warnings and investigations in some areas. Although it was ultimately dismissed as misinformation spread by a few individuals, Momo's eerie smile and unsettling appearance left a lasting impression on people, making it one of the most talked about internet urban legends of its time. But where did the frightening Momo image come from? It turns out that Momo wasn't originally intended to scare children. It was created by Japanese artist and film prop specialist Keisuke Iso, inspired by the Japanese yokai UBUME. He crafted the doll with bulging eyes, a grotesque expression, and an unsettling smile, which later became the infamous Momo. UBUME, also known as the birthing woman in Japan, typically refers to the spirit of a woman who dies just before, during, or shortly after childbirth. Her lingering concern for her child prevents her spirit from passing on. These women often appear on dark, rainy nights. UBUME can take many forms, sometimes as a woman carrying a baby or as a pregnant woman, while other times they appear as horrific, bloodied pregnant women, crying out desperately into the night for help. These tragic spirits wander near the places where they died, seeking help from the living, which they themselves cannot provide. If the mother dies after childbirth but her baby survives, the newly formed UBUME will do whatever she can to care for the child. She may enter shops or homes, trying to buy food or clothes for her still living child, paying with handfuls of dead leaves instead of money. These ghosts also attempt to lead humans to the location of their hidden baby, hoping it can be taken to living relatives or adopted by another person. In cases where both mother and child have died, an UBUME may appear carrying the bundled corpse of her infant. When a human approaches, the ghost tries to pass the bundle into their arms. If the person accepts, the ghost vanishes, and the bundle grows heavier and heavier until the helpful stranger is crushed under its weight. In Japan, UBUME is known for its tragic story, but the Chinese legend of the Gu Hunyao is quite different. According to the Jinzhongji from the Eastern Jin period, the UBUME, also known as the Heavenly Emperor's Maiden, could transform between a bird and a beautiful woman by wearing or removing feathers. This yokai doesn't bear children of her own, but instead steals others' children as if they were her own. At night, if baby clothes are left outside to dry, the UBUME will mark them with blood, and later, the child will be taken by her. This is why people call her the ghost bird. In ancient times, people were afraid to leave their children's clothes outside at night, perhaps due to this legend. Another legend about the UBUME tells of a group of them who transformed into women after shedding their feathered robes to bathe and play by a river. By chance, a passing man saw them and secretly hid one of the robes. After all the UBUME finished bathing, they put on their robes, turned back into birds, and flew away, except for the one whose robe had been stolen. Unable to transform back into a bird, she was left behind. The man took the woman home and married her, and they had 3 children together. One day, their children told their mother where their father had hidden her feathered robe. Following the clue, the woman found her robe and immediately transformed back into a bird. She then took her 3 children with her, returning to the homeland of the UBUME, leaving the man forever without his wife and children. Shuten-Doji, a legendary demon king from ancient Japanese mythology, was the leader of Oni during the Heian period. He went by many names, with his original name believed to be Gedomaru. However, due to his infamous love for sake, he became known as Shuten-Doji, meaning the sake-drinking child. According to accounts in novels like Otogi Joshi, Shuten-Doji is depicted with 2 distinct appearances, a handsome young man and a hideous demon. In his human form, Shuten-Doji is charming and attractive, using his appearance to deceive over 100 young women. However, when revealing his demonic form, Shuten-Doji transforms into a fearsome red-faced ogre capable of spewing fire. He possesses a ferocious and menacing visage, with disheveled hair, horns protruding from his head, and a massive body covered in fiery red skin. Shuten-Doji, in addition to his insatiable thirst for alcohol, also craved the blood of young women, particularly those who were virgins. He would use his handsome appearance to deceive naive young girls, luring them back to his dark castle on Mount Oi. Once there, he would brutally murder these women, drinking their blood and consuming their organs raw in a gruesome manner. Shuten-Doji's extreme cruelty earned him the titles of Demon King and Virgin Killer. Although there are many versions of Shuten-Doji's origin story, a common element in each version is that he was not born as an Oni. Before becoming the king of the Oni, he was a human being. In one version of the story, it is said that SHUTEN-DOJI was a monk in training at Byakugo-ji in Yamato province. He would join the other monks in chanting and meditation every day. During this time, there was a severe famine, and everyone was suffering from hunger, especially the monks whose lives were already difficult. Some of them even perished due to starvation. SHUTEN-DOJI witnessed his fellow practitioners collapsing before him due to hunger, and he felt deeply saddened yet powerless to help them. One day, while meditating in a mountain valley, SHUTEN-DOJI witnessed a group of people bringing a cartload of corpses into the valley. These corpses were of those who had starved to death. The group simply found a spot and discarded the bodies without any intention of proper burial or care. Seeing this scene sparked an idea in SHUTEN-DOJI's mind. He realized that these corpses were just meat. Aren't those corpses just meat? And isn't meat food? These deceased individuals were now returning to the cycle of nature as fertilizer. What truly mattered, SHUTEN-DOJI concluded, was the living. So SHUTEN-DOJI made a bold decision. He quietly brought back the meat from those corpses to the temple and distributed it among the hungry monks. The monks, grateful for the food, didn't question where the meat came from and enjoyed their meals. They greatly appreciated SHUTEN-DOJI's efforts. From that day on, SHUTEN-DOJI would bring back meat from the mountains regularly, ensuring that no monk would starve to death again. However, the truth eventually came to light. The monks discovered that SHUTEN-DOJI had been feeding them meat from corpses. Instead of gratitude, the monks turned hostile towards him. They started beating him and hurling insults, accusing him of being a demon rather than a human. The swift shift from praise to condemnation left SHUTEN-DOJI bewildered. He couldn't understand what he had done wrong. Was saving lives also a sin? The enraged monks then threw SHUTEN-DOJI into the same mountain filled with corpses. From that day on, the temple lost a young monk dedicated to chanting and meditation, while the mountain gained a demon who consumed human flesh. There is also another fascinating version that explains how SHUTEN-DOJI transformed from a boy into the king of the Oni. According to this story, there was a young boy with supernatural powers and exceptional intelligence for his age. Due to his incredible abilities and wisdom, people around him began to call him the demon's child, and he gradually became very antisocial and harbored resentment towards others. It is said that the boy's mother was a human woman, and his father was the infamous great yokai Yamate-no-Orochi. If you're interested in learning more about the story of Yamate-no-Orochi, known as the strongest yokai, please leave a comment below. At the age of 6, even his own mother abandoned him. Left as an orphan, he became an apprentice monk at Mountain High in Kyoto. Among these young apprentices, he was the strongest, smartest, and most handsome. His exceptional looks made him the object of admiration for girls in the village, which fueled jealousy among the other monks who began to ostracize him. The boy harbored resentment towards them as a result. His studies suffered, and he got into fights. He also developed a drinking problem, which was forbidden for monks. However, he could outdrink anyone willing to sit down with him. Because of his love for alcohol, he became known as SHUTEN-DOJI, the Little Drunkard. One night during a temple festival, SHUTEN-DOJI arrived very drunk. He wore an Oni mask and amused himself by playing pranks on his fellow monks, jumping out from the darkness to scare them. Later that night, when he tried to remove the mask, he found it wouldn't come off. It had somehow fused with his body. Ashamed and frightened, scolded by his masters for his drunken behavior, he fled into the mountains to avoid further human interaction, viewing them as weak, foolish, and hypocritical. For many years, he lived on the outskirts of Kyoto, stealing food and alcohol from villagers and consuming large amounts of liquor. His thieving ways eventually attracted bands of thieves and criminals who faithfully followed him, forming the foundation of his gang. During his exile, SHUTEN-DOJI's power and knowledge continued to grow. He mastered dark and mysterious magic, which he then taught to his gang of thugs. Along the way, he encountered another demon child like himself named YUKI-DOJI, who became his chief servant. Over time, SHUTEN-DOJI and his gang underwent a transformation, gradually becoming Oni themselves. Eventually, he established a whole clan of Oni and Yokai thugs who roamed the highways, terrorizing the people of Kyoto in their drunken rage. SHUTEN-DOJI and his gang settled on Mount Oe, where they inhabited a dark castle and plotted to conquer the capital and rule as emperor. SHUTEN-DOJI and his gang rampaged through Kyoto, capturing noble virgins and consuming their blood and organs raw. The emperor, fed up with these abductions escalating from common women to nobles, finally could not tolerate it any longer. He dispatched Minamoto no Yorimitsu to defeat SHUTEN-DOJI. On Myoji Abeno Seimei instructed Minamoto no Yorimitsu to first visit 3 shrines for blessings. Following this guidance, Minamoto no Yorimitsu received 2 sacred treasures from the gods: the demon-subduing poison sake and the star-reflecting robe. The demon-subduing poison sake appeared as ordinary sake to humans, but any yokai who drank it would become completely intoxicated and lose consciousness. The star-reflecting robe served to protect and seal SHUTEN-DOJI. SHUTEN-DOJI, already fond of alcohol, was tricked by Minamoto no Yorimitsu into drinking the demon-subduing poison sake along with his yokai followers. They became heavily intoxicated and lost consciousness. Taking advantage of this, Minamoto no Yorimitsu proceeded to sever SHUTEN-DOJI's limbs and decapitate him. However, even after being dismembered, SHUTEN-DOJI's head continued to bite at Minamoto no Yorimitsu. Protected by the star-reflecting robe, Minamoto no Yorimitsu remained unharmed. He used the power of the robe to seal SHUTEN-DOJI, putting an end to his reign of terror. Thus, the atrocities committed by SHUTEN-DOJI were finally brought to an end. The sword used by Minamoto no Yorimitsu to sever the head of the demon king SHUTEN-DOJI was named Dojikiri Yasutsuna and is now designated a national treasure, housed at the Tokyo National Museum. The demon-subduing poison sake that Minamoto no Yorimitsu used to intoxicate SHUTEN-DOJI is said to be kept at Nariaiji Temple in Kyoto. As for the star-reflecting robe, it remains securely sealed and hidden away. Whether SHUTEN-DOJI was merely a legend or a historical figure, he has left behind a captivating chapter in stories and folklore, delighting and captivating later generations with tales of his exploits. Tengu are creatures from Japanese folklore, often believed to be yokai, supernatural beings or spirits. Typically, Tengu are depicted with red faces and long noses. Some Tengu have bird-like wings on their backs, but regardless of whether they have wings, they are generally able to fly. Tengu usually wear attire similar to Yamabushi, Japanese ascetic monks, and they often carry items such as a shakujo, a sword, or a feather fan. Sometimes, they are depicted with a military strategy book called the Tiger Scroll. Additionally, they possess a cloak that grants invisibility, allowing them to vanish at will. Tengu are characterized by an overbearing and arrogant demeanor. They usually reside deep within forests, places that ordinary people dare not approach. The earliest record of Tengu in Japan is found in the Nihon Shoki. It describes a monk hearing strange noises in the sky, followed by something swiftly flying overhead like a shooting star. The term Tengu was first used in the text to describe what the monk saw, and people at the time imagined it to have the appearance of a hawk. During the Heian period, the Kanjaka Monogatari further documented that Tengu could transform into the images of Buddha, monks, and saints, or possess human beings. The Classic of Mountains and Seas, a pre-Qin ancient Chinese book, carries tales about mythical creatures such as Tengu, also known as Tian-Go in China. However, the depiction of Tengu in this book significantly differs from its Japanese counterpart. Unlike the humanoid Tengu of Japan, the Chinese Tengu is portrayed as a creature resembling a dog. The most famous narrative about Tengu in the Classic of Mountains and Seas is its act of devouring the sun. This story has given rise to the popular Chinese phrase Tian-Go eating the sun, which is used to describe a solar eclipse. In Japan, Tengu were also known as Tenko due to their appearance. Up until the Heian period, the image of Japanese Tengu resembled that described in the Classic of Mountains and Seas. In the late medieval period, the Tengu's image shifted from that of a hawk to the long-nosed Tengu. The long nose symbolized an arrogant and haughty attitude, as Tengu were considered embodiments of arrogance. Their long noses were seen as a symbol of this arrogance. At that time, saying, "I want to become a Tengu," implied that one had become proud. From the medieval period onward, Tengu were called great demons and the like because they had fallen into the Tengu path. As a result, they were considered immortal and capable of displaying various skills like immortals. They attempted to obstruct Buddhism, and some were even regarded as powerful yokai capable of shaking the nation. Within the hierarchy of Tengu, there are different ranks, with the highest being the Dai Tengu, or known as the Great Tengu. Other Tengu, such as Kotengu, Karasu Tengu, Konoha Tengu, and Onna Tengu, are considered to be the subordinates or workers of the Dai Tengu. In Japanese folklore, the three great yokai are the white-faced, golden-haired, nine-tailed fox, SHUTEN-DOJI, and the Great Tengu. Among these, the Great Tengu is believed by many to be the manifestation of Emperor Sutoku, making it particularly famous in Tengu legends. Emperor Sutoku was originally the 75th emperor of Japan. He ascended the throne at the age of 5 and was forced to abdicate at 23 by his nominal father, Emperor Toba. The throne then passed to Emperor Kono, the son of Emperor Toba and Tamamo-No. After Emperor Kono's death, the throne was taken by Emperor Go-Shirakawa, shattering Sutoku's dream of regaining power once again. Displeased with Emperor Toba, Emperor Sutoku allied with Minister Fujiwara no Yorinaga and others to initiate the Hagen Rebellion. After their defeat, Sutoku was exiled to Sanuki. In exile, he repeatedly expressed remorse to the court, but his fervent appeals failed to move Emperor Go-Shirakawa and his supporters. Sutoku spent a considerable amount of time transcribing 5 volumes of the Mahayana Sutras. Some say he wrote them in his own blood and sent them to Kyoto, only to be met with rejection. Deeply humiliated, Emperor Sutoku was filled with resentment. He bit his finger and wrote on the returned sutras, "I vow to become the great demon king of Japan, to disrupt the nation, to make commoners into emperors, and emperors into commoners." After that, he refused food and water, succumbing to his anger and dying in anguish. Upon his death, Emperor Sutoku transformed into the fearsome Great Tengu, bringing calamities to Kyoto. The Great Fire of Ongan nearly burned down a third of the city. Influential figures like Rokujin and Kujo-in, close to Emperor Go-Shirakawa, died one after another, and the Enryakuji warrior monks stormed the imperial palace with demands. These events were all attributed to the vengeful spirit of Emperor Sutoku. More significantly, a few years later, the Taira and Minamoto clans engaged in a fierce power struggle. For the next several centuries, the samurai class, through the shogunate, became the de facto rulers, while the imperial family was reduced to political puppets. It seemed that Emperor Sutoku's curse to make commoners into emperors and emperors into commoners had truly come to pass. The appearance of the Great Tengu is usually accompanied by catastrophic disasters, symbolizing the downfall of the nation. After a series of calamities, people feared the Great Tengu, believed to be the transformed spirit of Emperor Sutoku. To appease his wrath, the court posthumously conferred a title upon him. However, historical records suggest that Emperor Sutoku continued to lead other Tengu to wreak havoc on the human world. It wasn't until 1868, during Emperor Meiji's enthronement ceremony, that an envoy was sent to Sanuki to bring Emperor Sutoku's spirit back to Kyoto and enshrine it at the site of the former Shiramane shrine. This finally pacified his vengeful spirit. Today, Emperor Sutoku is revered as a protective deity of Shikoku. The story of the Great Tengu is a significant element of Japanese culture, representing more than just a mythical creature. It serves as a profound reflection on power, arrogance, and revenge. Numerous works featuring Tengu continue to emerge, and this legendary figure, existing between god and demon, will be passed down through generations. Let's hope the Tengu himself doesn't appear, for his presence inevitably brings disaster. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click the like button. I'd also love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to leave a comment below. Finally, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you won't miss any future updates. Thank you all for your support. A fox is born with one tail, which can store spiritual energy. Once enough energy is absorbed, the tail splits into two. A fox with 3 tails is known as a demon fox. 6 tails make it a spirit fox. And when it reaches 9 tails, it attains immortality and is revered as a celestial fox. From the spring and autumn period to the Han Dynasty, foxes were considered auspicious creatures. By the Tang Dynasty, foxes began to be seen as enchanting spirits capable of seduction. For instance, Bai Jiyi's poem, The Old Tomb Fox, compares King Zhou of Zhou's concubine to a fox spirit. By the Sung Dynasty, the term fox spirit had come to symbolize immoral women. This cultural perception of fox spirits also spread to Japan. During the Yuan and Ming dynasties, the tale of a fox spirit possessing Doji became widely known. The story, later recorded in the Investiture of the Gods, Feng Shun Yin Yi, describes Doji as a 9-tailed fox demon. The typical lifespan of a fox is around 10 to 15 years. As their natural life approaches its end, a small number of foxes may awaken their spiritual intelligence under certain unique circumstances. Foxes and cats are considered animals with strong spiritual power because they inherently possess a complete set of 3 souls and 7 spirits, unlike other animals. Some fortunate foxes and cats are born with fully intact souls and spirits, setting them apart. Ancient records describe 3 methods by which a fox can awaken its spiritual intelligence. The first is by accidentally consuming an elixir of immortality, such as the pills crafted by the Grand Supreme Elderly Lord that might have fallen into the mortal realm. The second is finding an exceptional place for cultivation. As foxes are creatures of Yin, they require a significant amount of lunar essence and Yin energy to progress in their cultivation. This is why many depictions in films and television show foxes worshipping the moon. The third method is following a virtuous monk or Taoist priest, learning skills and gaining knowledge. Some fortunate foxes living near human cultivators receive true teachings, which can significantly boost their power. This explains why some two-tailed foxes are extraordinarily strong. They may have mastered such teachings. The white-faced, golden-haired, nine-tailed fox, one of Japan's 3 great yokai, is an example of the third method. The white-faced, golden-haired, nine-tailed fox was originally a white-furred fox born near an ancient temple in China. Its parents, due to their rare white fur, were hunted and killed by hunters. The young fox was rescued by a monk who later kept it at the temple. Over the years, the monk rose to become the abbot of the temple. Upon his death, the monk's sarira, a pearl-like relic formed in the bodies of highly cultivated monks after death, was inadvertently consumed by the white-furred fox. This act awakened its spiritual intelligence, setting it on the path to becoming the legendary nine-tailed fox. After the white-furred fox awakened its spiritual intelligence, it became an omen of disaster. After cultivating for several centuries, it transformed into the white-faced, golden-haired, nine-tailed fox. Its white fur turned golden, and it attained immortality. During the Shang dynasty, it wreaked havoc by killing and devouring Doji, a beautiful woman chosen to serve as consort to the last Shang king, King Zhou. The fox then assumed Doji's appearance, manipulating the king into debauchery and enforcing tyranny. This chaos ultimately led to Jiang Ziya aiding King Zhou in raising an army to overthrow the Shang dynasty. Using a demon-revealing mirror, Jiang Ziya exposed Doji's true form as the nine-tailed fox and executed her by beheading. The foxes managed to escape and later fled to ancient India. Fleeing from China, the nine-tailed fox arrived in ancient India. This time, she set her sights on 3 sarira formed after the death of King Chandragupta Maurya. Transforming into Lady Huayong, the consort of Prince Bunzuk of Magadha in South India, she schemed to acquire the sacred relics. After obtaining the sarira, she began spreading false divine decrees, compelling Prince Bunzuk to sacrifice 1,000 citizens in honor of Mahakala, a manifestation of Shiva. However, during this gruesome act, the white-faced, golden-haired, nine-tailed fox was exposed when a powerful ascetic revealed her true form. Forced to abandon her plans, she fled in disgrace. After lying dormant for several centuries, the nine-tailed fox reappeared in China, once again taking the form of a concubine to King Yu of Zhou. With her breathtaking beauty, she once more succeeded in captivating the ruler. To win her favor, King Yu lit the beacon fires during a time of peace, ultimately bringing about the downfall of his kingdom. Afterward, the white-faced, golden-haired, nine-tailed fox disappeared into the Chinese folklore, only to resurface during the Tang dynasty. She then traveled to Japan alongside the 9th envoy to Tang, China. The nine-tailed fox entered a period of cultivation and quietly lived a life in hiding, concealing her true identity. Many years later, a samurai, who had no children, went to a temple to pray for a child. Seizing this opportunity, the white-faced, golden-haired, nine-tailed fox once again emerged to cause chaos. This time, she took the form of a baby girl and appeared on the samurai's return journey. The kind-hearted samurai and his wife adopted the child, naming her YUKI-ONNA. She gradually blossomed into a beautiful woman. Renowned for her exquisite beauty and graceful demeanor, she was skilled in various arts such as music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. Due to her vast knowledge and unparalleled beauty, she was hailed as Japan's foremost talented woman. At the age of 18, she was appointed to the imperial palace and became a court lady to Emperor Toba. Thanks to her beauty and profound knowledge, she gained Emperor Toba's favor and quickly became the most beloved concubine in the palace. Before long, Emperor Toba bestowed upon her the name Tamamo-No-MAE. As time passed, Tamamo-No-MAE's power grew increasingly formidable under the favor of Emperor Toba. Soon after, Emperor Toba fell severely ill and became bedridden. Despite the efforts of the imperial physicians, they were unable to diagnose the cause of his illness. It was then that Onmyoji Abe Yasunari, the grandson of the famous Onmyoji Abe no Seimei, concluded that Tamamo-no-MAE was behind the misfortune. His judgment revealed that this favored concubine was not human at all, but rather a white-faced, golden-haired, nine-tailed fox. With Onmyoji Abe Yasunari's mystical intervention, Tamamo-no-MAE's true form as the nine-tailed fox was exposed, and she swiftly fled the palace, her whereabouts unknown. Tamamo-no-MAE fled and took refuge in Nasu, Shimizu province. Soon thereafter, reports surfaced of women and children disappearing in Nasu. Abe Yasunari determined that Tamamo-no-MAE was responsible for these incidents, and it was decided that she must be eradicated once and for all. Emperor Toba ordered the formation of a punitive expedition and appointed Miura no Suke, Chiba no Suke, and Kazusa no Suke as generals. Onmyoji Abe Yasunari was appointed as the military strategist. An army of 80,000 soldiers was dispatched to march towards Nasu. Upon arrival at Nasu, the army quickly discovered the whereabouts of Tamamo-no-MAE. The punitive expedition was overwhelmed by the formidable yokai magic of Tamamo-no-MAE, suffering heavy losses and retreating in defeat. Miura no Suke and Kazusa no Suke ordered the soldiers to intensify their training in horseback archery before launching another attack. This time, their strategy proved to be highly successful, as the punitive expedition pushed Tamamo-no-MAE back step by step. In a dream, Tamamo-no-MAE appeared before Miura no Suke disguised as his own mother, pleading for mercy. However, Miura no Suke saw through this ruse and realized that Tamamo-no-MAE's end was near. Therefore, he launched another full-scale attack. Ultimately, 2 arrows from Miura no Suke pierced Tamamo-no-MAE's abdomen, while Kazusa no Suke used his long sword to sever her head. With that, Tamamo-no-MAE breathed her last. Afterward, Tamamo-no-MAE's body was transported back to the capital. Despite her physical demise, her spirit did not dissipate. Instead, her soul took refuge in a stone near the volcanic crater, forming what is known as the SESSHO-SEKI, a legend that has endured to this day. Tamamo-no-MAE's obsession persisted in the form of the SESSHO-SEKI at Nasu, constantly awaiting the opportunity for revenge. The SESSHO-SEKI continuously emitted poisonous gas, harming nearby humans and animals. Even insects and birds that flew by were not spared. Any living being that came too close to the stone would perish instantly, making it impossible for anyone to approach the area for a long time. Over 200 years later, a high priest named Jinno was journeying through Shimizu province when he witnessed a peculiar occurrence. Birds flying overhead would suddenly plummet to their deaths whenever they passed over a particular boulder in the Nasu plain. At the foot of the stone lay a heap of lifeless birds. Intrigued by this phenomenon, Jinno pondered its cause. Shortly thereafter, a local woman approached the priest, and he inquired about the stone. The woman revealed that the SESSHO-SEKI was haunted by the spirit of Tamamo-no-MAE. She recounted the tale of the fox courtesan before vanishing into thin air. Jinno realized that the woman had been the ghostly spirit of the infamous Tamamo-no-MAE. Soon after, Jinno conducted a Buddhist memorial service over the stone. From that day onward, the SESSHO-SEKI ceased emitting poisonous gas and no longer harmed anyone. People believed that the spirit of Tamamo-no-MAE had been exorcised from the rock. In Tochigi Prefecture, Japan, Locals believe that the SESSHO-SEKI, which seals the nine-tailed fox, is located there. Every year, many tourists visit the area, and this stone has become a national treasure of Japan. However, on March 5, 2022, the SESSHO-SEKI suddenly split in half. Many people interpreted this as an ominous sign, believing that either the nine-tailed fox had returned or that something bad might happen. Perhaps someone beautiful around you is the incarnation of TAMAMO-NO-MAE. If you enjoy my channel, please help by hitting the subscribe button and turning on the notification bell so you won't miss my upcoming videos. Thank you for watching until the end, and I'll see you next time.